Okay, we're reading Bonaventure's life of St. Francis, also then his tree of life, and then his soul's journey into God. Bonaventure, man, you gotta love Bonaventure. And we in California, man, you should feel him, man. There is Ventura, California, which is named for St. Bonaventure. And then, of course, everywhere you go, San Francisco is St. Francis of Assisi. This is the land of St. Francis of Assisi. And then Los Angeles, that's actually the El Pueblo, the town of Our Lady of the Queen of the Angels of Portiuncula. So Los Angeles is named after Mary, but then it's the Mary that was at where the little chapel that of Portiuncula, which St. Francis did. So it's a Franciscan site. This is the chapel of the Portiuncula here. Here's it's a little chapel, and you go to Assisi, and they've built a church all around it. But this church, it's a little chapel with this story that goes back to how Mary had been seen there. There's a site there, and then they brought relics. Well, no, they bring relics there first, and you see, and this is this, signs and symbols stuff. They bring relics of Mary there first, and then Mary appears, and the questions of the story are there varieties of this story. Saint Benedict, it comes under the Benedictine rule in 516, and then later on it's going to be brought under the Franciscans, and Saint Francis of Assisi will run the Franciscan order, or to the extent that he runs it, he gathers the Franciscan order to this little chapel. So that's why Los Angeles is named Los Angeles, is because that's the place that Francis gathered his friars together, his little brothers, and they inspired each other to then head out as missionaries. So we have San Francisco and Los Angeles, both fully part of the tradition. This when you go to San Francisco, you're up on Russian Hill, isn't it? Where you then North Beach is just right down there, and there's the memorial church to St. Francis of Assisi, and then right in here is a model of the Portiuncula. So actually in San Francisco, you've got a little Los Angeles thing going. Sort of fun. And then, but another church that's very famously tied to Francis is this San Damiano, which is right at the bottom of the hill from Assisi. All this is very regional. It's just stuck right there in Italy, and you can go visit all these places. I've been in here, and St. Francis was praying in here, and he heard Jesus' voice from the cross. Build my church. And we'll talk about that in a second. But then with Francis and his growing, activities and stuff, he moves so much to the Portiuncula. This church here was dedicated to a female version of the Franciscans. There was a woman, St. Clare. And so we have Santa Clara, California, Santa Clara University, Santa Clara stuff all over. And so St. Clare, Bonaventure, San Francisco, Los Angeles, we were all tied up in the story of St. Francis of Assisi, which you're going to read Bonaventure's version of it. Okay, the basic story. Here's Francis hearing the voice from the cross, build my church. Francis, in the beauty of Francis's way, just always takes things so simple. He doesn't take things grand. So he looks around and says, okay, I got to fix these churches. And so he starts fixing churches in the area. Friends join him. He starts to use money from his father, and he takes off his clothes and gives his father back his clothes. But then it's the bishop who wraps him in his stole. And so this very symbolic moment of Francis is not going to he was a merchant family, not going to do that, going to go with the church. And then, of course, the Pope he goes to visit the Pope because, of course, you get 12 people following you. You got to figure out what the Pope needs to say you can do this. And this is that obedience and humility of Francis. He doesn't believe that, hey, God gave me a message and I'm supposed to do it. Oh, no. I got to check this out with the local authorities, the bishops, and then also go to the Pope. The Pope doesn't even see him, but then has a dream of Francis holding up the church. And this is a very powerful Pope, Innocent III. And, and so this becomes the great story of Francis and the Franciscans as reviving the missionary zeal of the church and then becoming these missionaries that go all around the world and do hold up the church in so many ways. Part of the fun of this is that here's these Giotto paintings that you can see in Assisi when you go to Francis's church there. But he has this beauty in him, which is that he always traveled by twos, and Jesus said to travel by twos, don't carry any purse, go as a poor beggar. So they're mendicant, they're poor beggar monks. And but he runs into animals, and he runs into birds, and there's a wolf, and there's all these, and these are brother wolf and sister birds, and he also sings brother sun, sister moon. He sees himself in a sibling relationship with all of nature, which is a really sort of thing we want to talk about and see in there. And Jesus says that God looks after the sparrows. Well, if God looks after the sparrows, then I should look after sparrows too. My job is to preach, so I'll preach to sparrows. And so he preaches to sparrows. And then you have, this is the six-winged seraph. He doesn't want to run the order. He actually isn't a priest. He's not ordained. He's a layman. And he does not have any ambitions to be some sort of great leader. He actually then withdraws and wants to experience the suffering of Christ. The greatest gift that can be given to a human is to experience what Christ experienced. This is why we have an island off of our coast out here named Santa Cruz, Holy Cross. The cross, which was a instrument of torture, Christians turn into a symbol of salvation. It is the moment of salvation. Christ has saved us all on that cross. We're in sort of a backwash time. A lot of people look at Francis as sort of maybe a key figure in the sort of final backwash time of God's, dispensations or plans, as to how he's going to work salvation. Salvation's been accomplished on the cross, but he's allowing, he wants that word to get all around the world. And so Francis becomes the guy who's going to, get that stuff going to all around the world, even out to here to the coast of California. But Francis goes to a little sort of a hilltop grotto place up here and receives the stigmata, the wounds of Christ. And so it's the greatest gift, and this is really sanctifies it. After he's dead, there's hundreds of people see the stigmata on Francis. This is not just a myth or some sort of story. This is pretty dang eyewitness stuff. And so he's sort of fast-tracked into sainthood after he dies. And there he is, you see, with his stigmata there. This is the hill on which the Laverna. Where's Laverna here? There's Rome, and then you see Assisi's like right in there, south of Perugia, and then it's up in there. It's in these mountains here. That's not a very good map if it doesn't give even where I want to talk about. But Francis just becomes the most popular of all saints. You can't not like Francis, Be praised, my Lord, through all your creatures, especially through my Lord, brother, Son, who brings the day, gives light through him. He is beautiful and radiant in all of his splendor. Of you most high, he bears the likeness. We're not worshiping creation. Creation is this facilitator of our worship of the Creator. And we are all brother sun, sister moon, brother wind, right here, sister water. And he was, he comes out of this medieval folk singing tradition. And so we have just a lot of good stuff from him. And I was down in Mexico here at a Franciscan monastery. It was a friar place in Puebla, Mexico, and we saw these were drawn. These are drawn in. This is the Francis's life here, and you can see him preaching to birds, and he's got the flames going here, and he prayer there, and these are all sort of great moments in Francis's life. But then you see the stigmata is there, showing the nails. The miracle of the stigmata was he actually has the nails showing, and they show not where the historic would have been, but where people expected it to be. This is a sign, and so doesn't have to be historic. We're not talking archaeology here. God is working with signs. And then this is Bonaventure. Here's and notice how he has the book with the church on top of it. This is a very, evocative portrait. But it is Bonaventure who's going to try and really make sense of what was a sort of very full and vital life. We have other biographies of Thomas of Solano and stuff, which are in many ways more fun to read than Bonaventure. But Bonaventure organizes the story of Francis's life in a way that becomes very, very influential. Okay? Thought I'd show you this today, of course, this being the Bonaventure Hotel in Los Angeles, that most prominent of those, and interesting really, of the Los Angeles hotels. And so the Bonaventure Hotel. And then remember, Ventura, California is named after him. And our present Pope is Pope Francis. He is actually a Jesuit, and Jesuits usually name themselves after Ignatius or Xavier, or the founders of the Jesuit orders. Jesuits tend not to; they get pugnacious with Franciscans, but in a grand gesture, first of unity with the Franciscans, and also a grand gesture of support for the Franciscan mission, is he, a Jesuit, took the papal name Francis. So this is the guy we're talking about. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. We'll try and talk. Let's have a good discussion of these books. Just page by page, reading passages back and forth to each other. That's what college is all about. That's what's fun. That's the way it should be done.